Chinakos, a self-proclaimed metal maniac and lover of horror, sci-fi, and fantasy. Mike is the author of Hollywood Cowboys, Kiss of the Traitor, Dead Town, and the forthcoming Terminal Horizons. He is currently writing the last installment of the Hollywood Cowboys series titled Season of the Dead. Mike is the past president and co-founder of the Northwest Independent Writers Association. One last thing, you guys have 15 minutes, okay? I'm going to be sitting right here and timing you off. Hey Mike, thanks.
Well, you just took up 5 of my minutes right there introducing myself. Let's see if I can do this without my reading glasses tonight. That's what happens when you get old. As he said, I am the author of the Hollywood Cowboys series, and this is going to be something of a departure for me. This is a sci-fi anthology of short stories that I've done here. So this will be the first time I've really gone into the field of science fiction professionally. So what I'm going to do something a little different tonight, since there's several stories involved here, and I've only got 15 minutes, as we have been reminded. And some of my stories are a little longer for short stories. So I'm going to read snippets of several of the short stories in here, just to kind of get you an idea of the spectrum of different stories that are in there. The first story is called Unstuck, The Terminal Horizons Blues. John Wayfinder sat at a crossroads on the edge of the known universe. Ahead might lie nothing, or everything for that matter. He didn't know, and not knowing bothered him. John understood more about the universe than any other sentient being alive, and he didn't like the idea of reaching the limits of that knowledge. He always felt eager to learn more. The more he learned, the closer he came to unveiling the mystery of his own nature, to finding out how he became unstuck in time. That's all I'm going to read from that one. John is the central character that kind of ties the theme of the book together. He appears in several different short stories through the book, but every story can be read on its own or be read as a whole, and he is sort of a mosaic character. The next snippet is from No War Tomorrow. They made us do things we didn't want to do. We fell upon your worlds with iron talons, a payload of death from above. We never questioned our orders. We didn't feel alive until we killed and killed again. They bred us for war, and in war we found our reason for existing. They made us do things we didn't want to do, but in the end, what else besides war did we really know? What else could we do? I helped set it all on fire. I stood in the flames upon the bodies of those we conquered. I basked in the blood of the dying. I did things I didn't want to do, but some primal part of me enjoyed doing them all the same. In the end, I knew the dead would always bury the living. The piles of the deceased would rise taller than all of the mountains of the worlds we left bruised under our boots. The dead would rise and bury the living. Then there would be no war tomorrow. That was No War Tomorrow. This next piece is entitled Spanish Archer. Armando Cruz rode into town with murder on his mind. Hatred burdened his gut, deep and turbulent, like the oceans that brought his family from Spain to the Americas 50 years before Armando came screaming into the world. Only a few townspeople moved about the village at first light. Some glanced up at him as he slowly sauntered down Main Street before going about their business, leaving him alone, just the way he liked it. Armando didn't want to be in dusty Sidewinder, Arizona. The long ride from Mexico had left his ass and back sore. Riding so long with only his thoughts and the occasional screech of a vulture or the yip of a coyote as company, Armando had nothing to do but brood on the hate driving him. He knew that kind of thinking could make a man insane under the hot desert sun. More than once he thought about turning back for the comforts of home. Then the face of his brother, young and innocent, as the childhood memories Armando conjured up to remember him by, floated in front of his eyes. The memory of his brother stoked the fires in his gut and kept him riding north. He rode into town, ready to throw murder onto the fire and quell its blaze. The echo of a blacksmith's hammer shoeing a horse greeted him to his left. In front of the barber shop, an old man smoked a pipe as the barber readied his place for the day's business. Armando rode past the Grand Hotel, where a pretty little Mexican girl swept the stairs at a front porch. He reined in his horse in front of the Sidewinder saloon. Murder would have to wait for the right time. He needed a drink to wash away the dirt and dust coating the back of his throat. There'd be time to settle his beef soon enough. The first thing Armando needed was to bend an elbow at the bar. A stiff shot would help him clear his head, making sure he made no mistakes when the time came to settle accounts with a man he intended to kill. That was Spanish Archer. The next piece is entitled Ranger Down. In death, Hawthorne Hawk looked pleasantly surprised. He sat behind a large black metal desk, his massive frame looking even heavier than usual on his leather office chair. A cigar from the practice sector rested half-smoked in a glass ashtray to his right. A bottle of Antarian whiskey sat next to a full glass on his left side. His holocomp flickered in pause mode, hovering above the desk in front of pale eyes that would never see again. Jack Danzer swore he saw a smile at the fringes of his dead friend's lips. If Hawthorne did wear a smile, it was the first Jack had seen from the big man in years. His old boss never really got over the deaths of the men and women serving under his command in the Stellar Rangers, and the weight of several losses over the years followed Hawthorne right into semi-retirement as the head of security on Space Station Sebra. Not that any of that mattered now. Jack knew the cause of death. Murder, plain and simple. Or murder that only he could solve. Blink of an Eye is the next story, which actually brings us back to John Wayfinder, who ties all the stories together. The problem with being immortal is that there's never enough time. Never enough time with your loved ones. They age so quickly before your eyes. Never enough time to slow things down. The years roll by one after the other like a raging river of coincidence and consequence. You're never really in control, no matter how many times you lie to yourself, claiming to be the captain of your own destiny. Never enough time at all. Never enough time to save the universe. For a man unstuck in time and space such as myself, that's a very depressing thought. My name is John Wayfinder. I'm trying to save the universe from the apocalypse that I unwittingly created. For the 10th time in a row, I have to explain to people I've gathered around me why I can't simply go back in time and undo what I've done. My patience is beginning to wear thin. Unusual for me since I've had so much time to develop my patience. But knowing you've caused a universe-wide invasion by an alien force from another dimension, that would test the limits of even the most serene Antares monk. And the final piece is Dancing with Death. Kage Neko hung from a balcony 66 stories above the busy streets of Fedcorp Prime. On the lower levels, the first 10 streets above ground level, the ground cars and pedestrians looked like nanobots swimming through a black and gray bloodstream. From the 10th level up, sky cars sped past, the closest one only a few meters below Kage Neko's dangling feet. She didn't worry about being seen. Her stealth suit had been checked and double-checked before the mission. She knew when holding still, the holographic emitters covering every centimeter of her suit made her virtually invisible. The suit's computer scanned her surroundings constantly, and then used holographic tech to emulate those surroundings, taking Kage out of the picture to the naked eye. Kage's arms quivered. Every muscle and ligament from her fingers to her shoulders burned. The clock in the corner of her heads-up display told her she had been hanging above city traffic for 30 minutes now. She checked her scanners again. Her primary target had been motionless for the last 15 minutes. She knew it was time to get down to business. First, she had to take out the other two blips on the scanner showed on her HUD. Kage pulled herself up, swinging her right leg over the balcony railing very slowly. The stealth suit's hollow emitters worked better the slower she moved. Her arms screamed in protest, but she ignored them. She knew that although night had fallen hours ago, Fedcorp Prime was a city that never slept, and was always awash in a myriad of lights. If she moved too fast, the huge man standing less than half a meter away would spot her. It took 2 full minutes to pull herself over the railing, but the guy in the black suit didn't take notice. He kept looking out at the skyline while smoking an Antarian cigarette. The cloying sweet smell of the clove smoke he exhaled drifted lazily in the humid air. Kage Neko stepped quietly behind him. Reaching up, she placed her gloved hands on both sides of his head. The gloves hummed softly, and the big man went stiff, his head shaking violently. He bit his cigarette in two and one half spun away, falling slowly into the flowing traffic below. The man died silently, the deadly discharge from Kage's gloves scrambling every synaptic pathway in his brain. She caught him as he fell backwards, lowering his body to the deck of the balcony. Threat neutralized, Kage went to the open doorway of the balcony. A soft breeze stirred the white curtains hanging in the doorway. Her target waited inside. And that's from the upcoming Terminal Horizons, which will be out in September. I am doing a pre-sale book card at the table here with the rest of the books. If you purchase the card today, we will authorize it to be taken back to Jacobson's when it's out, and you can trade that card in for a book. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate it. I'm Mike Chinakos.